Welcome back to The Person Everyone Needs. I'm Webb Hoggard, and today we are going to continue our conversation with a 10-year-old. You may have heard like 100 Bible stories. You may have listened to talks in Sunday school and gone to church, and you may have felt like this God thing has been said a lot around you. But I want you to understand that the reason the adults in your life talks about Jesus is because we believe him. We believe he's the Son of Man. We believe that he's God. We believe that his life is the best life to live. He is the way, the truth, the life. And that's the reason you're hearing so many adults that have lived a little longer than you realizing that the God of the Bible is real. And see, during the next few years of your life, you're going to hear a lot of other voices telling you that your way is better, or their way is better, or that the devil's way is better, or that sin's way is better, like that you can figure it out, you can handle it. All these things will be said to you. But I'm going to tell you today that there's nothing that is better than God's plan for you. Nothing. Nothing is better than God's plan for you. And so if you think that you can figure out something better than what God says, I promise you, you will eventually figure out that you were wrong. The second thing is that I wanted you to know that God's plan really does come true if you seek him. If you seek him and what he wants, and if you pray, and if you read your word, and if you live this life, and if you're obedient, God's plan for you does come true. And it can come a lot quicker than you think, and you might have to be a lot more patient than you think. What God wants for you doesn't happen in a day. It's something that you have to discipline yourself. You have to be diligently walking toward. So I'll just tell you a few stories from my life. Early on in my life, I knew that I wanted to be a preacher. I knew that I felt like the Lord was calling me, but I also saw some confirmations in different areas as I grew older. In fact, when I was close to 10 years old, I went on my first missions trip. And when I was there, like the Lord kind of confirmed to me that this is what I was. So I had all these moments. There was another moment when I was about 11 or 12 that a preacher came and said that God could give you a vision of your future. And I remember praying so hard, and the only thing in my mind was that the church that I now pastor kept flashing in my head. And I was thinking, like, of course I could never pastor my home church, because my pastor was the pastor of my home church. And I had no idea that by the age of 34 that God could call me back home, and that he could, give me this wonderful dream that I once had. I had no idea these things were possible. God did not reveal to me how these things would come to pass, but I did believe him. I did believe in the call that he gave me. I believe that he exists and that he's real and that he loves me. I believe that he had a plan for me. I believe that he has a plan for this church. I believe that he has a plan for this community. And so I just kept believing. I kept having faith in the one that could change everything. And for myself, I can tell you, it works. I'm sure you can find somebody out there that say they believed and it didn't work. But personally, I just feel like they didn't believe long enough, if that's the case. The idea of faith is believing. When you hear the word that is spoken, especially by God, and I just encourage you to understand that there is no word worth listening to than God. But when you hear God speak the word, believe it. Believe that it's true. And what the direction that points you in, follow it. Go where it says to go when you believe these things are true. So faith, number one, is something that you need to keep in mind, because what God wants for you will come to pass if you continue to believe it. The other thing, as I said last week, hope. Always believe tomorrow is going to be better than today. Keep hope alive. But the best strategy in order to get to where you're wanting to go is to love. Love God in every step, but also just love people. Understand that you're strong enough to handle when people are mean. You don't have to retaliate. You're not so small. Look, one day there are going to be people who take advantage of you. They're going to steal money from you, or they're going to steal your property. Understand that you're a big enough person that even if they take from you, you're going to survive. You are bigger than those circumstances. I know we want justice, and God's going to get justice on people who treat you that way, I promise. But when you get in between God and that person, you mess up the justice situation that God has. Romans reminds us that vengeance, to avenge, revenge, it's God's business. So trust God enough that if you've got a bully in your class that is making you feel bad, trust that God's going to handle it, and don't feel like you've got to take it in your own hands. Understand that your manhood or your maturity or your strength is not actually what's on display in a moment like that. You don't have to retaliate in order to show somebody else. Now, look, there are moments where you do need to retaliate to show that you're not going to mistreat me. Understand your own value and stand up for it. Understand that nobody actually can take anything away from you. Who you are comes through the person of Jesus. And so you don't need to show that other person that you're smarter. I know they are making fun of you, and so it feels like I need to one up what they just said, or I need to, or maybe somebody's saying crude things around you. They're telling jokes that are inappropriate. They're being so you think, okay, well then I need to be someone who tells an even more inappropriate joke, or maybe it's somebody who has stolen your pencil over and over again, and you're like, well, I finally I just need to take this person out. I promise you that you can endure more than you think. And you don't have to make sure that the circumstances are even. You can take it on the chin and actually be a bigger man or a bigger lady, because you are not going to be a person who is constantly coming after people. Listen, you can trust God to take care of you. That's what I'm trying to get at. God will fight on your behalf. I'm just a little bit older than you, and so I would tell you that there have been many times that I have tried to revenge on my own, and I always end up looking dumb. But when I let God handle it, He always takes care of me, and usually He takes care of that other person. You can trust that God's plan is going to come to pass. But it's not going to come to pass because you stayed passive. It's going to come to pass because you stay focused on what He's doing, not what others are doing, not what other people do to you, and certainly not by focusing on the economic turns and the political issue. Listen, I know right now at 10 years old, you're probably not thinking of that, but in the years ahead, there's going to be plenty of things to be distracted by. And I tell you, keep your eyes on what God says and what God has planned for you, because He'll bring those things to pass. And I guess another thing about the revenge, I want to say to you, you don't really know what other people are going through. You know what they're putting you through, and that's not fair. Look, I understand that. Like, it is not okay for people to mistreat you, and I don't mean to make that at all to imply that, but trust that God will make those things right. But let me say also to you, perhaps the bully in your class right now, you don't really know what's happening behind closed doors. I'll tell you this also, even the person that has a big smile every single day, you may not know what they're going through at home. I recently was reminded of a good friend of mine that I always looked up to and always thought was special, and I recently realized that he was basically going through hell at home for years. It was horrific. Parents divorced and addiction. His parents were addicted, and then just an absolutely lost kid. And I never knew that. I had no idea that he was enduring those things. I never knew that he felt lost. And so it was kind of heartbreaking. Like, I wasn't a good friend to him. I was never rude. I was never mean to him, but I never knew to even say to him, like, hey, I'm here for you. You have no idea who in your class needs to just hear you say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm here to take care of you. Let God take care of you, and you take care of others. When it comes to vengeance, let God take care of you, and He'll take care of others. And that's how you can really make a difference. That's how you can show that you trust that God is the one in control, really. And when we say that, I know often what we have in mind is like immediate control. And I want you to understand He has ultimate control. He may not fix your circumstance today. He could, but He may not. He most of the time will not fix your circumstance today. It'll be a long time before you see all things come to pass. But if you believe, and if you keep hope alive, and if you decide to love others, Paul said these are the only things that last forever. At the end of all things, there's faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. And so if you believe God and that He has a plan for you and that you want to see that plan come to pass, I just encourage you every single day, live out faith, hope, and love, and trust that God is going to bring His plan to pass in your life. He has a great plan for you. Even if you don't know what it is, God has a great plan for you. and he will not give up on it. Don't you do it either. Because a person who fulfills the plan of God on their life is a person that everyone needs.